Get you some perspective on this and why President Duterte's approval rating is, it has to be said, sky high. We're joined from Manila by Richard Heydarian. He's a political analyst and has written several publications on the Philippines' place in the political world. Thanks for joining us. You were at an event with the president just before he made those remarks, which have been so widely reported outside of the country. What was the attitude in the room and what was the context for in which he made those comments?
Well, Becky, I was actually in an awarding ceremony and met the president just shortly before his latest controversial remarks, when in his speech he said that he's not a killer, he doesn't enjoy violence, and all he wants is just stability and rule of law for his country. The next thing I know, he makes another controversial speech before the businessman, who also went to the presidential palace later on and completely contradicted himself. Now, the legal issue is this. I understand that Senator De Lima is talking about impeachment, but as far as the Philippine president is concerned, he's constitutionally immune to prosecution while he's still in office. The second thing is that the Senate, which is supposed to hold the executive to account, has just concluded an investigation, essentially saying the president has not been implicated in any kind of extrajudicial activities as far as war on drugs is concerned. And the Ombudsman office also made it clear that words alone are not enough. There has to be actual evidence. And the fact that the president is still popular means that he has the political momentum on his side. So it's quite premature to talk about impeachment at this point in time. But I think the news is tightening around his neck. The United States just today canceled a $400 million development aid, the Millennium Development Corporation Fund, on grounds of deterioration in rule of law in the Philippines. The Philippine currency is going down. Yes, the president is popular, but he had around a 90% approval rating in July. Now it's closer to 60%. So that's quite a significant drop. And more than that, while in a survey, more than 80% of the Filipinos said that they support this war on drugs, 70% said that we don't want killings. We want a much more public health focused approach to this issue. And I think now President Duterte is realizing maybe he has to move to a new phase of war on drugs, stop the scorched earth and shock and awe approach, and more focus on rehabilitation. And that is why a few weeks ago, he inaugurated this massive rehabilitation center funded by the Chinese. And now the Japanese and other allies are pitching in. So he has to transition and move to the other phase. Otherwise, international pressure and domestic pressure is going to build up.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you say that. And as you also rightly point out, his approval ratings, which may have dropped from 90% to somewhere between 60, I've seen them as high still as 80, to be honest, on some polls. It does show that he does still have support. And in the past, of course, he hasn't really cared what the international community has said. You get the impression that out loud he'll say, I don't care what you say, this is my country and I'm getting on with it. Look, as we just heard, Senator Leila de Lima is among the most vocal critics of President Duterte's hardline tactics. She tells CNN the president has it in his power to stop the extrajudicial killings of untried suspects. Have a listen to this.
He is a lawyer. He is a former prosecutor, and he claims to uphold the Constitution because that is his sworn duty. If he is serious and if he is sincere in upholding the Constitution and upholding the laws, then he should stop the killings, or he should order those killings to stop.
She adds that her push for impeachment has gotten her death threats and made her the subject of a government investigation. If those allegations are true, would they surprise you in any way?
Well, I mean, the thing is this, unfortunately, the investigation with regards to the war on drugs in the Philippines have become more of a circus whereby different legislators have been trying to grandstand and do posturing. I mean, one of the unfortunate things about the investigation in the lower house or the Congress of the Philippines is that people were raising concerns with the personal life of Senator De Lima. And now you have more or less a fight between the lower house and upper house on whether Senator De Lima herself should be impeached from her office. I think many Filipinos are not very happy about the turn of events, seeing their legislators fighting each other. But the reality here is that the opposition in the Philippines is still in a hibernation mode. So long as Duterte maintains high approval rating, he can count on much of the Congress of the Philippines to actually side with him. The Philippine Supreme Court has not also been very encouraging. Remember, just a few months ago, the Philippine Philippine Supreme Court gave a go-ahead for the burial of former dictator Marcos. Not to mention that there's even a possibility that Ferdinand Marcos Jr. may win a recount for the office of the vice presidency. So far it seems the political momentum is on the side of Duterte. And the other important thing is that with the entry of Donald Trump, Duterte is expecting that American pressure on him on human rights issues will go down. In fact, Duterte claimed that during his phone call with Trump, Trump supported his war on drugs, and we're yet to see denial from the Trump transition office. So on one hand, you see that there's an expectation that U.S. will go softer on him because of the change in the administration there. But on the other hand, the people in the Philippines do not want the president to only focus on one issue. They want the president to focus on other issues like poverty, unemployment, and infrastructure, the real roots of the problem of drugs and criminality in this country. And surveys suggest that for the Filipino people, the number one issue is not drugs. It's inflation, it's unemployment, and it's poverty. So the president, by next year, has to bring some new tricks to the table. He cannot talk about drugs all the time. And I think at some point the people will want the president to shift to a much more public health focused approach to this war on drugs. This cannot go on just forever.
Fascinating stuff. Your analysis is enlightening. Thank you, sir.